I've titled this a subjective review of Dispatch, which almost seems redundant to say. Any review of a work of art is fundamentally subjective. Art needs a subject to perceive it, even if just the artist himself, for it to accomplish anything as a work of art. Objective description of that work of art is possible, saying this painting was made using watercolors and incorporates a certain set of colors and a certain technique with the brush on a certain kind of canvas. That's not an art reviewer's job, though. Here's my point. Some people have the idea that a video game review is basically the same kind of media as a tech product review, something like you might see Marcus Brownlee or Linus Tech Tips put out, where the goal of watching the video is to decide whether or not a product is worth purchasing. They operate on the idea that 10 out of 10 is something everyone should play, 9 out of 10 is worth checking out, 8 out of 10 is something you go for if you're interested, 7 out of 10 is enjoyable if you get spare time and money, 6 out of 10 is a miss, and that none of the integers below 6 exist. Once they've done that fundamentally economic calculation, again, made a purchase decision, they've gotten what they came for from the review. I'm not going to comment on whether I think it's worth giving Ad Hoc Studio your money in order to play their product, a video game called Dispatch. For what it's worth, I do like this game, and I want it to be successful. And if you find yourself appreciating it too, then yeah, sure, make it financially sustainable for the artists to develop more things that they want to develop, whether those things are like this particular game or not. But this is a video about how I perceived Dispatch. This is a story about where in my life this game found me, and what it made me think and feel under those circumstances. It's the story of a relationship between me, a single unique person, and a work of art I engaged with, and about the slightly blurry border where one ends and the other begins. I have been to Los Angeles a number of times. I know people who live there, and I have a complex impression of the place that's hard to completely put into words, but I've never lived there. The devs, on the other hand, are based in LA, so there are a few little references. I love Phenomeman's one-off remark that
organized criminals, often led by figurehead supervillains, are the scourge of Southern California.
just Southern California? Sure, NorCal's fine. You'd never find a supervillain in Oakland, but you better watch yourself in Beverly Hills. It's reminiscent of the long-running Phineas and Ferb gag, where Dr. Doofenshmirtz's aim is always to
be the head of the tri-state area!
There's maybe just a little bit of self-absorption and isolation that come from being in such a big city. And in my experience, a big part of living in LA is not just being self-absorbed and isolated, but also being well aware of it and making fun of yourself and your neighbors for it. What really defines LA in my mind is the complex mix of grand possibility and a unique, ambitious flavor of capital R romance with harsh realities, wealth disparity, disillusionment, violent unrest. It blends and blurs into a melancholy that everyone can feel all the time, no matter how wealthy and fabulous, no matter how content and homely. I wish I could find the interview again, but I remember an immigrant to LA being asked their opinion of America, and the response being that the place felt spiritually sick. LA is Blink-182 songs about divorce, about being bored to death, about how even the relative security of suburban life wasn't what people really needed to feel fulfilled. LA was where everybody has more money, but that money buys less, so they all just have further to fall if the supports get knocked out from under them. Even so, LA is also a place where massive opportunities come out of nowhere. It's Hollywood and big tech and just generally a massive city. And if you have the right connections, the ceiling on your success is so much higher than most other places on Earth. LA is also one of the most beautiful places on the planet. A sunny climate with a massive coastline of beaches that, I say from experience, are healing even just to be in the vicinity of. I've long said that LA's biggest problem is how nice of a place it is to live. because then everyone wants to live there, and it gets overcrowded. Their power grid is strained. The cost of living is an absurd joke, where what's practically a shed with no waterproofing or even windproofing on the beach might cost $1 million, and people cram themselves into overcrowded houses just to make ends meet. Failure is not an option, but it happens anyway, and you find both the heights of human victory and the depths of human tragedy in a bizarrely crowded space, such short distances apart, short distances that nevertheless take an hour and 15 minutes to traverse by car, and that's if you know what you're doing. While I set the two apart as opposites earlier, that's really a part of the romance of it. We always tell adventure stories not just about the treasure that's discovered, but also the perils that await the heroes. I've never lived in LA, but I have road tripped to LA, and one of the things that will always stick with me is the drive to get there itself. Coming from the 10, which I took to get there from Phoenix, you drive through the mountains, winding paths, demanding of your focus, especially at the speeds you can get away with, but there comes a point where, if you're driving at night, you come around a turn, and there it is all of a sudden, the whole city of Los Angeles laid out in front of you, every flickering light hitting you at once. I've long loved this image from Calvin and Hobbes by Bill Watterson of a starry night sky, and I appreciate the beauty of our view of the stars when it's not ruined by light pollution. That said, I also think about William Shatner's eloquent thoughts about our relationship to space, and how those thoughts changed when he finally got to visit it in real life. I continued my self-guided tour and turned my head to stare into space. I love the mystery of the universe. I love all the questions that have come to us over thousands of years of exploration and hypotheses. Stars exploding years ago, their light traveling to us years later. Black holes absorbing energy, satellites showing us entire galaxies in areas thought to be devoid of matter entirely. All of that has thrilled me for years, but when I looked in the opposite direction, into space, there was no mystery, no majestic awe to behold. All I saw was death. I saw cold, dark, black emptiness. It was unlike any blackness you can see or feel on Earth. It was deep, enveloping, all-encompassing. Everything I had thought was wrong. Everything I had expected to see was wrong. I'd thought going into space would be the ultimate catharsis of that connection I had been looking for between all living things, that being up there would be the next beautiful step to understanding the harmony of the universe. I had a different experience because I discovered that the beauty isn't out there. It's down here, with all of us. Leaving that behind made my connection to our tiny planet even more profound. Now, I look at the lights of a place like Los Angeles, and yes, it is a spectacular view. But these lights are also more than spectacle. These lights represent humanity. Every flicker, a life, or a space made for a life. Stars are just balls of burning gas, a random happenstance of the cosmos. Every light in a city is intentional. Every light in pursuit of some tiny, microscopic step in a process of realizing human dreams. You can find those stories everywhere you find humans, but Los Angeles is one of the biggest libraries of those stories, and it's a fitting venue for them. I don't live in LA. There are probably people who know LA better who think my impression of LA is totally uninformed. These are not objective beliefs that I hold, but subjectively, LA is an amazing place to set Robert's story, for the heights he rose to and the depths he fell, for the sickness of spirit, for the melancholy he lives in, the apartment he can't afford to furnish, but also the bona fide superheroine who knows his name and seeks out his help in person, for his uncompromising competence, his ambition, and his commitment to making his dream happen, and shaping his entire life around it come hell or high water. It's amazing that these buildings he flies through are real, And while it's obviously enhanced through the gorgeous animation, this scene is real for me in the way it captures the lights in the night sky, which I have grown to find more beautiful than the stars themselves. As soon as this scene started, and I heard the melancholy sense of growing hope in the music, and saw the lights that symbolized to me the human spectacle of Los Angeles, I had a moment that I only have with the greatest, most impactful games I've played in my life. It's something that took a while to happen even in Dark Souls for me, and yet it was here in the first episode. I didn't decide, I already knew that I was going to eat whatever these developers decided to put on my plate next. I was going to play this game all the way to the end.